In this video, we are going to look at types of polynomials. We look at their various names, their various leading coefficients, their various leading term, their various degree. So after going through this video, you'll be able to identify various polynomials and name them properly. So let's begin with the least polynomial of them. So the least polynomial is usually a constant. For instance, 5, 2, 4, and the rest of them. So the constant is simply a number that has an invincible variable attached to it. For instance, these values we have here are constants. So the degree of the constants here is 0. Why is 0? For instance, 5 being a constant. Remember, the variable attached to it, you cannot see it, is invincible. So let's say this is a variable. Why the degree is 0 is that this x has a degree of 0. X raised to the power 0 will give you 1. 5 times 1 result to 1. So that's why we say that the degree of the constant is 0. Whereas the leading coefficient is 5. We are using 5 now to illustrate this. The leading coefficient of the constant 5 is 5. And the leading term of the constant 5 is also 5. So the same thing is applicable to any other constant at all. If you are using, depends on the constant you are working with. If you are using 2, the leading coefficient is 2, the leading term is 2, the degree is 0. The degree of every constant is 0 in that order. And the degree here is 0, whereas the leading coefficient of every constant is that number itself. The leading term of every constant is also that number itself. So that's for constants. Okay, so let's look at the next polynomial. Next polynomial we have that constant is a linear polynomial. For instance, I have 2x plus 7. Now, a linear polynomial is a polynomial with the highest power of x is 1. For instance, in this polynomial, this is x, the power of x here is 1. So the degree of a linear polynomial is 1. Whereas in this example, we have here the leading term in this polynomial is 2x, whereas the leading coefficient, the coefficient of 2x here is what? 2. Coefficient is simply a number behind a variable. So 2x, this is the variable x, the number behind is what? Is 2, in that order. Another example, we have something like x plus 2. The degree is still 1, the leading term is x, and the coefficient, leading coefficient is 1, because 1 is the coefficient of x here, is behind x. Okay, that's it for linear polynomial. Let's look at the next polynomial, which is quadratic polynomial. Let's say you have something like 3x squared plus 2x minus 4. So the name of this polynomial is quadratic polynomial. So quadratic polynomial is a polynomial with the highest power of x is 2. Okay, so the leading term here is 3x squared, and the leading coefficient will be what? It will be 3. Coefficient of 3x squared is what? Is 3. So that's it for quadratic polynomial. Let's look at an example. We have something like 4x squared plus 5x minus 6. This is a quadratic polynomial. The degree is still 2. The leading coefficient is 4. The leading term is 4x squared. Leading coefficient is 4, in that order. So that's how you identify degree, leading coefficient, leading term of a quadratic polynomial. Okay, so let's wipe this and look at the next type of polynomial. Okay, so the next polynomial we have is what we call a cubic polynomial. Example is, let's say we have 3x cubed plus 4x squared, okay, plus 2x minus 5. And you having known that this is a cubic polynomial, that's the name of the polynomial. So here now, the degree of the polynomial is what? Is 3. A cubic polynomial is a polynomial in which the highest power is 3. So the degree of this polynomial is 3, whereas the leading term is 3x cubed. So leading term is usually the term, like in this polynomial, we have 4 terms, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we have 4 terms here. So the leading term is usually the term that has the highest exponent or power. So in this example, 3x cubed is the leading term because it has the highest power or the highest exponent, which is 3. Okay, so the leading term here is 3x cubed, whereas the leading coefficient is 3. So this is it for cubic polynomial. Okay, so having known this, let's look at the next polynomial, which is what we call a quartic polynomial, where the highest power of x is 4. Example, we have something like 5x to the power 4 plus 6s cubed plus 3x squared plus 2x minus 7. So this is a quartic polynomial with the highest power of x is 4. Okay, so the leading term here will be 5x to the power 4, and the leading coefficient will be what? 5. The coefficient of 5x to the power 4 here is what? 5. So this is it for quartic polynomial. And lastly, let's look at what we call a quintic polynomial, in which the highest power of x is 5. Okay, so let's look at an example of a quintic polynomial. We have something like 7x to the power 5 plus 5x to the power 4 plus 3x to the power 3 plus 2x squared minus 4. So this is a quintic polynomial. The highest power is 5. So having known this, the leading term here will be 7x to the power 5, and the leading coefficient will be what? 7. So this is basically how you can name polynomials, identify their degree, identify their leading term and their leading coefficient respectively. And that will be all for this video. This is just an introduction to polynomial. With this, we have come to the end of the class. Hope you learned something interesting in this introduction to polynomial.